Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Seth. In today's video we're going to be breaking down the finale of Euphoria and also giving my thoughts on the whole season. Now this is your spoiler warning. I am going to be talking about the episode, so if you've not seen it or don't want any spoilers, here's your warning. But if you don't care, by all means stick around for the rest of the video as I talk about it. Now let's get into it. Now this episode starts off with Faye, screaming at Wayne, one of Lori's people in the group, and Rue goes into fight or flight mode, grabs a tool, hits Wayne in the leg, punches Faye, and starts running. Well, while that's going on, another person from Lori's group named Hartley is trying to lasso her up while she's running out of the ranch, and he succeeds by doing that, by lassoing her up, and he's dragging her back. But then that's when one of Alamo's persons shoots Hartley, and that's when Rue can escape and go back to Alamo's place, giving him the product, and Alamo's all happy with Rue, and like, he did such a good job, employee of the year, and that's when he gives Rue some money, some pain relievers, because Rue was in a lot of pain and looked like she was in a lot of pain, and Alamo says, take a week off, so Rue does take that week off, goes back to Ollie's place, and Ollie and Rue, are talking, stuff like that, and then the night comes, and Ollie goes to bed, Rue takes some of those pain relievers, and she starts going to bed, and then you get to see kind of like the next morning, where she sees on the news that Fezco got out of jail, and Rue's like, no way, she got out of jail, well I gotta go find him because that was our deal, So she tries to find him at the location that they said they were gonna be at. Fezco's not there. So she goes back to her childhood home and sees her mom and hugs her. And then that's when you realize this was all a dream. Rue is actually dying. She's just having one nice moment of her hugging her mom before she dies. And then here's what happens. Ollie actually wakes up the next morning, finds out Rue has died because of those pain relievers she took were laced with fentanyl. So yeah, we'll get more into that story because that story does not end. Now we're going to get into some of the other people and their stories in this episode. First with Maddie and Cassie. Now Maddie and Cassie first start off looking at each other very stressed out and disappointed, being like, what are we going to do? And then that's when Cassie says, well, we'll be doing it together, because that's when you start to see it's no longer a business relationship, it's more of a friendship now, they're becoming friends again, So Maddie and Cassie come up with a plan that they're going to rent out their rooms from Nate and Cassie's house to sexy accountant workers, if you catch my drift on what I'm trying to say on that, and they'll let them have the room, do whatever kind of content they want, but they're going to charge a fee for that room, and that's how they're going to pay their debt back to Alamo. Sydney Sweeney, who plays Cassie, will, of course, be in charge of the house, while Maddie gives the payment to Alamo. And in this really too, you get to see Cassie starting to become more of an independent person and really doing things on her own, And then Maddie too, goes to Alamo to give the payment to one of his adult workplaces, and Alamo was all like, hey, I love you, Maddie, I want the American dream of you. Some kids, a white fence in a house. And Maddie's like, how am I going to deal with this, because I don't want to do a life situation of him, Now we're going to get on to Lexi. Now Lexi, throughout this whole season has a pretty good arc, in a sense. She's starting to become more developed, in the industry, but at the same time too was very, very judgmental to a lot of the people her friends were, Cassie calls her up and says, hey, I need a storyteller for this workplace, and Lexi goes, I'll get back to you and stuff. So in that last kind of scene of Lexi and Cassie, they kind of really start talking and feeling like sisters again, but at the same time too, the emotional bond there is just not there, because Cassie is wanting to really forget about all the bad things that happened to her in this season, and really forgetting about Nate dying, because Lexi even tries to bring it up, like, hey, where did Nate go? And Cassie just won't bring it up. But Lexi does feel bad for Rue dying because, you know, she was very mean to her and is grieving. But when Rue did leave, she left that Bible, and Lexi started reading it, and she's actually like, wow, the Bible is actually really kind of beautiful in a sense. It talks a lot about, you know, I guess people were killing and having sex, but at the same time too, it talks about really don't stress out over the things that are happening, because they're gonna happen no matter what, you know. And I think she starts to become more of a believer of God, or she just likes the Bible in a sense. You know, of course, Lexi leaves, and Cassie just stares at that picture of Nate and just starts crying. Starts feeling really sad, maybe even crying in a sense, because the only person she really loved, Nate, is now dead. And she left with, yeah, she got some money, some fame, but at the same time too, the only person she ever really loved, Nate, is dead. Now she has a friendship with Maddie now, and that's great, but you know, it's the same situation still of that. Now, onto Jules. I mean, this is gonna be very quick. It was the same from the first episode. She's still wanting to be a sugar baby. She did find out about Rue, and she's grieving by making a picture, a painting, sorry, of Rue. But her arc, you know, this whole season was just what it was from the first episode to what it is in the last episode. The same. Now, for Lori and Lori's group, you know, when they get first rated in that, they get rated by the DA in the first scenes, you know, of this episode, you know, of course Wayne and Faye escape and go on the run. Lori goes up to the roof and ends her life, and then everybody else just goes to jail. Now back to Ollie. Now when Ollie found out Rue died, he was really hard by that, and something switched in his mind, because Ollie really loved Rue from the good times and the bad times, and throughout the whole seasons, like season 1, 2, and 3, he was always there for Rue. So he goes to a meeting and he says, I used to have, you know, I think the only thing that really needed to help people with addictions was sympathy, you know, and stuff like that. But if you have sympathy for somebody who has an addiction, you're also having sympathy for the people who are supplying the product to the people who have an addiction. And if you do that, you know, and you sell these products to people, you're a heartless, evil person. This will be my last meeting. So he comes up with a plan to go to Alamo's place, sorry, and kill him. And that's what he does. He goes to Alamo's place, brings a shotgun, and, you know, Kitty comes up, one of the workers there. He says, I want your manager. A guy comes up and says to the, you know, who is the manager, goes, how can I help you? Ollie goes, Alamo Brown work here. He doesn't want to say. He grabs that shotgun, puts it next to his private area, and goes, Alamo Brown work here. The guy goes, yup, but he won't get Alamo out here. So he shoots the guy in his private area and starts screaming, Alamo Brown, you hear? And that's when Alamo comes out. And, you know, they start talking stuff like that. And then Alamo tries to put Maddie in front, but Ollie's not shooting. So he goes, Alamo goes, you're a respectable person. Puts Maddie to the side and goes, let's have a Western shootout. So they grab a bottle, and that bottle comes to the end. They'll have that shootout. But Alamo deceives Ollie, because even before the bottle hits, he wants to start shooting. But one of his members, you know, and Alamo's group named Bishop, gives him the gun, you know, before they're about to have the shootout, takes all the bullets out. Alamo realizes and says to Bishop, I'll see you in hell. And then that's when Ollie shoots him 3 times and kills Alamo. Now, Bishop and Ollie look at each other, and Bishop says, may God have mercy on us. Ollie leaves, and Bishop, Maddie, and Kitty leave there too. Now, at the last scene, Ollie goes to that place where Ruth thought it was a perfect place in the first episode, you know, goes there to check it out, and they go, how can I help you? And Ollie goes, I was Rue's father, you know, and they all go, how's Rue doing? Rue's in a better place, getting the mention of Rue is dead. And in that last scene, you know, they have some supper and some drinks, they have a prayer, and when Ollie's praying, Ollie can see Rue, you know, and Rue says amen, and that's really that's this last episode for you. Now on to my thoughts of season 3 of Euphoria and the finale, you know. I'll be honest with you, this season really just wasn't for me, you know. I did like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, even though I thought the ending of 3 was a little weird. and the last episode. After that, those other episodes, yeah, they had some good scenes and stuff like that, but overall, just thought, which is not my cup of tea, and I really thought kind of just like chaotic and messy in a sense. Now, when I first heard that they were going to do a season 3 and it was going to be about their adult lives, I was really excited because time has passed, you know, and I do want to see how most of them do in their adult life. And now that I've seen all that, I'll admit, some of them arcs, you know, from the character in this season were kind of very lackluster. Like, Jules and Nate's characters were very lackluster. Jules, I mean, from episode 1 to episode 8, you know, through and through stayed the same, you know. And I get it too with, you know, how some people in real life give up their, I guess, creativity and what they really want to do with in their life, and just their life in general, to financial stability and just taking the easy route out. And if you do that, by all means, it's your life, do what you want to do. And at the same time too, with Nate's thing, you know, making a movie and making a TV show is very hard, and scheduling wise, it's very hard to do that because, you know, from season 1, they just built it up as, hey, Zendaya's in this. Now to season 3, a lot of the main actors are very well-known actors and are very busy, you know. Now we have Zendaya, we have Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi, Lexa Demi, Hunter Schafer, Maud Apatow, you know, all those people really got to be known. I mean, just a couple months ago, Jacob Elordi was nominated for an Oscar. Like, see, they all are very known people now, you know. So with Nate's character, I understand too, scheduling was probably an issue because he's very busy, in a sense. Same with probably Zendaya too, you know. But at the same time too, these are just my opinions and thoughts on what I thought of, you know, the season and their characters. Because from season 1 to season 2, Nate was this narcissistic, only caring about himself, anger-induced psychopath. Now in this season, season 3, Nate's all like, smile, smile, I love you, Cassie, you know, we'll get through this. Because even some of those episodes, all you would see of Nate is just him getting beaten up and like hoping in one of those scenes he flips a switch and goes back to his older self to see if he can really just defend himself. Not saying his older self was ever great, he was a terrible person, but just to see if he can really just stick up for himself, but he never really does. And that's when I kind of was upset with how his ending was, because it felt very, in a sense of like, you know it's gonna happen, because they really kind of took some time with it in an unclimactic way, of that snake slithering around very slowly. You're like, okay, if you put it together, he's gonna die by the snake, you know? But everybody else's arcs, like Maddie's, Cassie's, Rue's, you know, all kind of really tied in with the whole Alamo thing, and that arc really too, that story, wasn't bad. It was entertaining, and I mean, Zendaya will always give a great performance, you know, what she's dealt with. But after that, you know, too, it just, the season just really wasn't for me, you know. Now on to like all the other seasons. Season 1 I really loved, Season 2 I really loved. I mean, we all remember Euphoria Sunday, watching that, and then the next couple days talking about it online, or talking about it at your workplace and stuff like that. And I will be honest with you, you know, Euphoria, no matter what has happened, you know, with this last season, or just all the controversies, it will be known in this generation for the actors that they built up with, you know, and the makeup, of course, because it was very colorful and just very, like, beautiful to look at in a sense, you know, and the fashion, and just the cultural relevance, because it first started off with being, you know, hey, some people in some teenage years and even in high school deal with these problems in a sense, with, you know, mental health issues and I guess addictions, you know. And then we're getting to this third season where, hey, it's more modern in a sense of some people when they get to that adult stages will go down a route like Cassie did with that sexy account website, where, they'll be like, oh, all I gotta do is post risque pictures and maybe even videos. I don't even have to do videos, I can just post pictures and get some money. Oh, okay. Yes and no in a sense, Also, it really just shows too, just in your young adult years, because I can even really say this too, because I'm a little bit in that age range too, of starting out, your career in your adult life, Not in the route Rue would go in a sense, but more in a route like too of Lexi would go, Or some other people could go down the route too of even a Cassie, It's not just one circle, it's all circles, Of how to do things in your adult life. But I will have to say this too. People in my age range, or in this generation, will be like, you seen Euphoria? And somebody who's in my age group will be like, yeah, I seen Euphoria. But they'll have different thoughts and opinions on it, Now, I do want to give, I guess, a noticed, or I guess, a thing of just the visual idea, or I guess the look for Euphoria in the first couple, season 1, maybe even season 2, was by Petra Collins. I just want to give a shout out to her, because she did such a good job, on that too. Now, do I think this is the series finale for Euphoria? Yes, I do. I think it really was, but I just don't think they wanted to say that, in a sense. But yeah, I do think this is like the end for Euphoria, because with Rue dying and Nate dying, there's not that many stories you can really go off on of the other characters, because Jules is probably going to stay the same way unless they change it up, but I still think it'll probably go the same way. Then that really just leaves you Maddie, Cassie, and Lexi, and yes, I love all 3 of those characters, but at the same time too, how can you really make a whole series, keep going on with the whole season on those, So I do believe this was the series finale, in just my opinion alone, But overall, I mean, season 3 wasn't the best, but overall for the Euphoria and all the other seasons, I did enjoy this, It was nice to see, I guess, their story and what they wanted to tell. So yeah, thank you for watching as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and goodbye!